Why don't we have a quick look at what Starmer said he would do about smashing them?
You will have helped to smash the gangs, secure our borders, and save countless lives. Smash the criminal gangs, and they are criminal gangs, that are running this vile trade and putting people in the boats. Take those gangs down. I think smashing the gangs that are taking people's money is a deterrent. I think you have to smash those gangs. The only way to stop that is to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade. Smash the gangs.
Yeah, or not, perhaps. Isabel Oakeshott's here. Very good morning to you, Isabel.
Oh, I can't get enough of that clip. Literally, I'm happy to watch that clip every day because he just looks such a complete muppet, doesn't he?
He really
They've
does.
not smashed any gangs, and you know this whole thing about new subs that we're ordering. Great, you know, I'm all in favour of boosting our defences, but none of it is going to make any odds as far as the vote is concerned. As long as the dinghies keep on coming, they won't care if we've got more submarines. Unless the submarines are actually doing something to stop the dinghies, then it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know, what people see is boatloads of foreigners coming over who are going to be dependent on the British taxpayer. And, you know, these boats are not, they're obviously not packed with people fleeing war and terror. They're all young men of fighting age, of an age where they could actually be contributing something to their own home country, and in the end we're going to have to pay for them. And this is going to be a total and utter political crisis for Keir Starmer as his premiership goes on. I don't know how much longer he can keep on saying he's going to smash the gangs and that not happen.
I know, it's ridiculous now, but almost everything he says now is a sort of parody of Keir Starmer, because, you know, like we've got his little tribute that he put out at the weekend saying, you know, what is it, secure at home and strong abroad. And I'm like, you know, secure at home, he literally had his own house firebombed. You know, we've got people coming in 10 to the dozen without being stopped. I mean, maybe the best use for the submarines would be to put them in the channel and to maybe attach by rope these boats and tow them back to France with them.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that really the submarines would be a great story if they could do something to stop the boats.
Right.
But what is the point of focusing on that when you've got such an obvious problem which is so completely resolvable? I mean, I find it astonishing that the French police are just happy to not only just stand on the beaches there taking a few pictures, you know, of migrants as they're waved over to the UK, but they also routinely drive past the boats when the boats are up on land being prepared. You know, there won't necessarily be any vile people smugglers near those vessels, but they are in wait, they're in position on dry land. Why are the French police not simply disabling those vessels? It's not really hard, is it? You know, I'm pretty sure I could do a fair bit of damage with a pair of scissors.
Right.
You can get an awful lot of pairs of strong slashing objects for the amount of money that we have given the French. So why aren't they actually disabling the vessels before they have a chance to be used, rather than just driving past them?
No, exactly right. We'll have a look at this little clip as well. This is Keir Starmer when they arrested one person, right? And that's the sole effort that they've managed to make since they've been in power. Have a look.
It is good news that today a man suspected of being a significant supplier of small boat equipment has been arrested. Criminal gangs have been getting away with this for far too long. I want to thank the UK National Crime Agency, along with their Dutch and Belgian counterparts, for all their hard work and their crucial role in this investigation. It's exactly what we want to see. And it shows that our approach of working with international partners to smash the people smuggling gangs is bearing fruit. In just over 4 months since the election, we've rapidly set up a new border security command, bringing together key agencies to disrupt people smuggling gangs.
He managed to get it right at the end. Here's my question, right? That was in November when they arrested one guy who supposedly was a significant player in the boat part smuggling business. How have they not managed to arrest anybody else since November? 6 months later, they still haven't got any leads from this guy to go and round anybody else up.
I mean, that is so pathetic. You know, announcing you've arrested, not even charged, by the way, just arrested. You've hauled in one person. Brilliant. Well done, guys. I would have said maybe hold off, you know, as a comms expert, communications, maybe hold off, you know, holding your own self-congratulation party until you've actually times that by at least 10, but ideally 100. You know, if he told me that if he'd announced that they've managed to haul in 100 people smugglers, then maybe I might think that might make some tiny little dent in what is a massive global operation here. One guy, you know, this isn't just some small little outfit standing on the beach down there, you know, a couple of blokes who are touting tickets over the channel. This is a huge international network which goes all the way, traces all the way to the manufacturers of these illegal vessels over in China. And those manufacturers, the government actually knows right down to where those manufacturers are, but obviously aren't doing anything about that either.
No, exactly right. I mean, he's never been named, this 44-year-old Turkish man who was arrested in Amsterdam. So presumably they're still questioning him. 6 months have passed. I mean, you'd think there'd be a bit more news made available since then, but no. It's a bit like, you know, Rudy Giuliani back in the 80s saying he's going to smash the mafia and then going to arrest some bloke in an Italian restaurant in Little Italy and saying, you know, well, that's a good start, isn't it? Well, not really, no. You have to get the guys into court. You have to actually, you know, prosecute them and put them away. That's how you stop people smuggling gangs. You know, you don't, like, just get one guy and then never charge him or name him.
I just don't know how much more, you know, British voters can take as they see these scenes. And people feel very disempowered. You know, they want to do something. They feel that we are being invaded, which effectively we are. They feel they're going to have to pick up the tab for a great deal of money, which they are. And this is now affecting pretty much every town, every community, as more and more properties are turned over to migrant accommodation. And there's a fair few people who are making a pretty penny out of this. It must be tremendously tempting. I'm sure it is. You know, when you've got a slightly down, well, very down market hotel that's not doing very well in a not particularly popular tourist spot, and along comes the government in the form of Serco and says, we'll offer you thousands of pounds a week to turn your little not very, you know, your modest property over to migrant accommodation. I get it. Of course it's tempting, but it's also incredibly unethical because that money they're making is off the back of the British taxpayer.
Of course. And the same goes for the private accommodations that are now being offered, because you've got, you know, again, what you might call unscrupulous landlords who are saying, oh, great, we get 5 years income. We'll turn not only the house that I've got into rental accommodation for asylum seekers, but we'll make it into a multiple occupancy property, an HMO, I think they call them, where we'll be able to get sort of 15 people into a place where you could normally only get about 7 or 8. So, I mean, it's trebles all round for these guys.
It completely is. And I think, you know, we've talked about this before. There are a few very honourable landlords who've said, actually, you know, Serco came along or some other agency came along and offered me literally millions to do this. And I decided I wasn't going to do it because it is simply wrong to make money from fueling this industry. And if people took a collective stance, then maybe the government would finally get the message that the answer to this problem isn't to provide ever more accommodation, it's to stop the demand.
Yeah, exactly right. Because you put out a tweet yesterday in which it said each migrant who crosses the channel today will cost taxpayers £40,000 a year. You know, and that's when you add up the numbers, just even on the numbers of people that came on Saturday, it's prodigious, isn't it?
Well, it's when people look, I mean, a lot of our listeners may be running small businesses, they do their own self-assessment, and they know how much they have to fork out at the end of, when self-assessment looms at the end of January. You know, you're transferring a horrible amount of money to HMRC. And, you know, £40,000 is a lot more, far more than most people pay in a single tax year, because the average income is around 40,000. So if you think about it, for most of our listeners, basically all their annual tax and more is going to support a single one of these people who are coming across in a boat.
Yeah, it is absolutely shocking. Let's change tack slightly. Starmer referred this morning in an interview to the BBC that he can't give a date as to when the UK will spend 3% of their GDP on defence. Once again, it's become an ambition rather than an actual promise and a target.
Everything else.
We're hoping, he says, by the next Parliament. But they won't be in charge of the next Parliament. That's pretty clear, isn't it?
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought, it's our ambition at the end of the next Parliament. I thought, good luck with that, guys. I'm not sure you're actually going to be there to deliver on that ambition. I mean, if ever the last couple of years have shown the importance of bolstering our defences, then, you'd think that message was being heard loud and clear. And it seems that it is. This government has said they're going to put more into our national spending on defence, but the economy isn't really growing very impressively, and so the more the economy flatlines, the less that we're actually going to get for our money, because inflation affects defence procurement hugely. It actually disproportionately, inflation in defence procurement doesn't go along with normal inflation. It's higher than that. So if the economy's not growing and defence procurement inflation is increasing, we're going to be getting an awful lot as a nation less for our money as time goes on.
Yeah, and that's indeed something that Chris Parry pointed out as well when I had him on earlier. He said also, as soon as you mention this fact that you're going to spend more money in procurement, in defence, the defence procurement companies and the ballistics manufacturers and all the rest of it just put their prices up.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. I mean, it's a while since I've looked at this, but in general, I think that the prices go up by sort of somewhere between 9 and 11% a year on these big projects. And you can imagine with these new subs that they're supposedly commissioning, I mean, perish the thought of how much the prices of those will alter as the project drags on. I mean, the defence, those in the industry, but also actually those in the armed forces, the top brass, have a terrible habit of kind of gold plating things as the project goes along. So something that starts off being X amount of money, as time goes by, it all takes absolutely ages, and the whole thing gets more and more expensive.
Yeah, one final question for you. Lord Hermer, front page of the Telegraph today, refused to review unduly lenient sentences given to a rapist, a paedophile and a terrorist fundraiser, who all got slightly lower sentences than Lucy Connolly got, for whom he refused to help and refused to have a look at the second, a lesser sentence for her. And he signed off on the prosecution of Lucy Connolly, as it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting story. He was in a position to review those sentences which were unduly lenient. You said that some of those individuals that you talked about got slightly less sentences than Lucy Connolly. Well, very significantly. I mean, at least one of those was given a suspended sentence. Yeah. And I think there was a rapist in amongst them who got away with only a few months in jail. And yet, somehow or other, this government continues to insist that over 2 years prison sentence for a tweet that was up for a few hours is not manifestly excessive. This guy's judgment is all over the place.
It really is, and it's two-tier justice, clearly, and he's very much influenced by his background as a human rights lawyer, representing the likes of Jerry Adams and various other characters, and wanting to sell off the Chagos Islands. I mean, does he survive this, do you think?
Well, I mean, he got into hot water over this whole Nazi slur. Yeah. I mean, I've never been one for, we've got to be consistent, and I wouldn't have called for him to resign over that comment. I know some have, but I do think that any senior political figure that invokes the Nazis or Hitler is not really fit to be in that position on the basis of judgment alone. It's not about whether it causes offence. It's just so stupid and so limited and so juvenile. Always to reach for the Nazi Hitler analogy, guys, it's time to get a bit better and brighter than that. You know, don't use that analogy. No good ever comes of it. And I just think this guy is just, I feel that we all deserve better from someone in such a powerful position than someone who uses those types of analogies and has that level of misjudgment when it comes to cases of such importance as Connolly's.
Yeah, I think so. Good to talk to you, Isabel Oakeshott. Thank you very much indeed. Isabel Oakeshott Talks international editor.